Hi everybody and welcome to Heel Heat. My name is George Coles, and on this episode we're going to do a top 10. The topic for this top 10, top 10 wrestlers in movies. Now before we get into it, there are going to be a couple caveats to this. Guys like The Rock, Bautista, Hulk Hogan even, John Cena have appeared in multiple movies, and we could easily make a list and make it a top 10 Rock appearances in movies. So with that being said, we're going to limit one movie per wrestler or movie franchise, and that's the second caveat. If a wrestler plays the same character over multiple movies, we're going to count that as one entry, just to make it a little easier so we could get more variety on this. That's how we're going to do it. With all that being said, let's jump in with our number 10. Hulk Hogan in Rocky III as Thunderlips. This could easily be just as big as anything Hogan did in the AWA or WWF at the time in making Hulkamania a worldwide thing, something that everybody in the universe knew. I mean, even to this day, 40 years later, if you say professional wrestling, one of the first 3 or 4 names that come up is going to be Hulk Hogan still. That's how big of an impact he had. Outside of the ring, a little bit of a scumbag. But that's a different story for a different day. Hulk Hogan as Thunderlips in Rocky, it really wasn't that big of a stretch of a character. He basically played a version of himself, a version of the heel Hulk Hogan from the 70s. So, he wasn't an Oscar winner, but it was definitely an important role that helped launch one of the biggest eras of professional wrestling and launched one of the 4 or 5 biggest careers in the history of pro wrestling. Now, coming from that, our number 9, a guy that a lot of people say that Hulk Hogan imitated or took influence from. Jesse the Body Ventura in The Predator as Blaine was a smaller role, a sidekick role for him. However, again, Jesse Ventura nailed it, knocked it out of the park in this movie. Jesse was in a couple of the Arnold Schwarzenegger movies at the time, and this, I think, to me, was his best performance. This had the most weight to it, the most importance. His role was the best. In all the roles that Jesse had, this had the biggest impact in the story of the movie overall, in my opinion. And I thought it was an awesome movie. I liked the original Predator. I haven't seen it in years, so I don't know if it holds up 30 plus years later. But it was a great movie at the time, and even several decades later, it's probably still a really good movie. I liked it a lot, and Jesse was one of the reasons I did. Now, our number 8. Probably at one time this was one of my top 10 favorite movies ever. And there's a couple of those on here. And there's something about the story that really drew me in, and and the entrant, of course, is George the Animal Steele in Ed Wood as Tor Johnson. So George the Animal Steele played an old wrestler, Tor Johnson, who was in Plan 9 from Outer Space, an Ed Wood movie, and was part of Ed Wood's cast of characters he would put in all of his movies. And this movie, being about the director Ed Wood, cast George Steele as him. And there were a lot of similarities between the look of the two guys. The striking difference between whether you knew George Steele in the 70s as a menacing heel character, or in the 80s as the lovable goof who seemingly had no kind of sense, was basically an animal, turnbuckle menace. Neither of those would tell you how good of a performance he could do playing Tor Johnson. And in this movie, again, I thought it was a really great movie. It's still a movie I enjoy very much. I thought his role was perfect. I thought he played the character perfectly. I thought it was a great part for him. He fit, he had the look, everything seemed to coincide and make for a really good experience, movie-wise and character-wise. Now, our number 7, probably the newest entrance on this, John Cena in the Suicide Squad as Peacemaker. Full disclosure, I'm a very big comic book fan. I like the Suicide Squad. The first movie was okay. The second movie I thought was a lot better. A lot of people, it's on the fence with a lot of people. A lot of people like it. A lot of people don't like it. I liked it for what it was. It was very campy, very much in the vein of like the Batman '60s show with an updated story or updated telling of something like that. And I thought the movie was good, in my opinion. I really enjoyed it. And one of the standout characters, enough so that he has his own TV show coming out at the time of this recording, early next week, was John Cena as the Peacemaker. This was John, to me, and I tossed this up because there was a couple John Cena roles I really liked. I really liked him in the movie Vacation Friends. I thought he played an awesome role in that. I liked him in Cock Blockers. I thought he was great in that. The movie he did with, I forget the name of the movie, and I'm forgetting the name of the actress right now, the comedian, Amy Schumer. The movie he did with Amy Schumer, I thought he did a good job in there. But to me, this was John Cena's best acting role. I thought he did great. I thought his delivery was perfect. The semi-serious way he acted as a character really worked for me, and I just thought it was an awesome movie all around. I really enjoyed it, and I thought more of this is going to make John Cena a big, huge movie star. Now, coming from that, one of my favorite wrestlers of all time, number 6, Terry Funk in Roadhouse's Morgan. Now, Funk had a very small role. It was a small but memorable role in the movie. He had been in other movies like Over the Top and Paradise Alley. I almost put him in for Paradise Alley, but I like Roadhouse as a movie more. And I think Funk lended some credibility to the role. You would believe Funk as an enforcer. You would believe Funk as a bodyguard, or you would believe him as somebody that would be a henchman for a bad guy. He took the role. He gave it such gravity and gravitas, and it was just awesome to me. And I love seeing Terry Funk in everything. For the greatness of the movie, the greatness of the man, the greatness of the character, I really enjoyed Terry Funk in Roadhouse. I thought it was one of the better roles of all time for a wrestler, as you can see on this list. Now, our number 5, probably the most critically acclaimed on here, and the one wrestler on this list that I have not seen any of his wrestling matches. I only know he's a wrestler. I've seen pictures of him as a wrestler. I've not seen one match he's wrestled. And that's Lenny Montana in The Godfather as Luca Brasi. A lot of people don't know that Lenny Montana or Luca Brasi used to be a wrestler and used to actually be a mob enforcer. That's how he got the role in this movie. And when you watch it, The Godfather, one of the great movies of all time, in everybody's top 10 list, every movie critic puts it right up near the top. He, much like I said with Terry Funk, he gave that enforcer role a real meaning, you could feel he was that character, because in real life, he actually was that character. He was the Luca Brasi in real life, and he made that role. It's one of the iconic roles in the movie, one of the iconic movies of all time. I really love Luca Brasi. I really like Lenny Montana. Years after liking the movie and liking the character is when I found out that he was a wrestler back in the 50s and 60s, and it was just amazing. To me, it was just a cherry on top of what I already thought was an amazing performance. Now, our number 4, The Rock, Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson, in the Fast and the Furious series as Hobbs. I know, again, it's a much maligned series. Some people really love Fast and the Furious. Some people hate it. Some people are indifferent. To me, I enjoy the series. I don't think it's the greatest movies of all time, But I don't go into watching Fast and the Furious thinking I'm going to see Macbeth or see The Godfather. I go in there thinking I'm going to see an action movie with some insane car stunts, with some insane stunts altogether, and I go in for the spectacle. And to me, The Rock being injected into that franchise really added a lot to the franchise, gave it a little bit more life, gave us someone else to cheer for in the movies. And again, as of this recording, it's reported The Rock is done with the franchise. He's not going to do anything else. But I think that would be a shame. I'd love to see him come back and reprise his role as Lieutenant Hobbs again. Hopefully they can work things out. If not, the movies he was in, I thought he did great in, and I thought it was The Rock's best performance in these movies. And coming off of that, our number 3. Another world champion, Dave Bautista in Guardians of the Galaxy as Drax, and also the other Marvel movies, which I'm sure he'll continue to be a part of. Dave has had an interesting movie career. He's played a good role in some movies, and when he was cast in this part, Drax is actually a character I really liked growing up. Again, I'm a very big comic book fan, especially Marvel. I like Drax, not necessarily the Guardians of the Galaxy, because the Guardians of the Galaxy was kind of a minor thing up until the movies. But Drax was a character I always enjoyed, and I always thought it was cool when he would appear in people's comics and people's stories. I didn't really see Bautista as Drax. Then when I watched the movie, now I can't see anyone else being Drax but Bautista. And that's high praise to the man. I think he pulled it off. His deadpan delivery is absolutely perfect. His massive size, you could tell it comes through in every scene that he's in, that there's more to Drax than just being a big muscular guy. You could tell he has a heart. You could tell he loves his family and he's wanting to avenge his family. And that's all due to Dave Bautista bringing that through and pushing that on the screen and making Drax a bigger character than I ever thought it could be. And I thought this was awesome. I really love his role in this. Kudos to Dave Bautista. You're doing great in the role. Please keep it going, my friend. Now, our number 2, the late, great Roddy Piper in They Live as John Nada. When people talk about wrestlers in movies, it's not long before this role comes up. Kind of a cult classic, kind of a sci-fi classic. A great movie of the early 80s. If you watch it now, yes, it looks very cheesy because of the limitations of what they had at the time. But the story was great. The movie was great. The action scene that he has in there, it's one of the historic action scenes in all of movies. So much so that they recreated it for South Park even. I thought this was an excellent movie. I thought this is Piper's best movie role. I loved him in Body Slam as well. One of my guilty favorite movies. It's cheesy as hell, but it was really good. I liked him in Hell Goes to Frogtown. But to me, this is the penultimate role for Roddy Piper. One of the trailblazers for professional wrestlers in movies. And I thought this was his best role and his best part in a movie I really enjoyed. Now, coming off of that, before we get to our number 1, there's a little thing we do on the top 10s here called the best of the rest. And it's basically, these are people that were considered for the list but didn't make it for whatever reason. First up, The Big Show, a.k.a. Paul White, as Captain Insano and the Waterboy. As memorable as the character was, couldn't actually add it to this list just because it was such a minor part in the movie. As memorable as it was, I couldn't justify making a top 10, but it was someone I did consider for this. Next up, the Macho Man Randy Savage, one of the greatest wrestlers of all time, playing Bonesaw in Spider-Man. Again, another very small role, a role that he pretty much played Macho Man Randy Savage. I really did consider this for the list. I just feel that the other characters on here made a bigger impact in the movies that they were in to both the movie world and the professional wrestling world as far as their movies, their parts, that I couldn't justify putting it in my top 10. But it is a role I really enjoy from a wrestler that I absolutely love. Now, coming off of that, before we get to number 1, if you think I left something off the list, if you think I ranked something too high, ranked something too low, let me know what you think. Put it here in the comments. Let me know what roles for wrestlers in movies you like. If you like The Rock in a different movie, better than I did. If you like Jesse Ventura in The Running Man, better than Predator. If you like John Cena in Cockblockers, better. Let me know what you think. Hit me up down here in the comments. Make sure to like, share, and subscribe if you're not subscribed. With all that being said, our number 1, it could only be one, Andre the Giant in The Princess Bride as Fezzik. This movie is in my top 5 movies of all time. It is so good, such a great movie. It's such a great part for a guy that no one else in the world, in the history of the world, could have played this part other than Andre the Giant. He was absolutely perfect, absolutely amazing in the job. You find out years later that he was in tremendous pain through the whole movie. However, that doesn't relay on the screen. It relays as he's a jovial character, he's a loving character, he's a gentle giant, and it's Andre. Probably the most classic video of Andre that anybody has. This and WrestleMania 3, probably the 2 biggest things that people are going to remember of Andre the Giant for years and decades and centuries to come. One of my top 5 movies of all time. Easily my favorite wrestling performance in a movie, Andre the Giant in The Princess Bride as Fezzik. I really love this. There's not too much I could say about this that hasn't been said already. If you've not seen this movie, please go and watch it because it is such a great movie and it's such a good story and every character is absolutely perfect. Really enjoyed his role. But with all that being said, my name is George Coles. This is my top 10 wrestlers in movies. And like I said before, please like, comment, share this. If you're not subscribed, please subscribe. Let me know your opinions down here, and we'll discuss it. And again, thank you for watching this. If you watched this video this long, and you stayed through the whole thing, put Andre in the comments. There we go. If you watch this video this long, type Andre in the comments so I know you stuck to the end. Again, my name is George Coles, and this has been another Heel Heat Top 10.